Hey guys, it's Kay from KS Anonymous, and I am back today with another episode of r/Tales from Retail. I swear to God, I didn't roll my eyes. This is my first time posting to Reddit, so forgive me if I make any rookie mistakes. I've been working in retail for almost 3 years now, and have seen a lot of nonsense, but this one in particular bothers me. Usually, a guest will show some external signs before a freakout. Seeming generally grumpy, have a tone when they speak, that kind of thing. But this time, I got none of that. I was working as a cashier, and this pair of older women and a younger woman are lingering at the end of my lane. One of the older women comes up to me, so I smile, thinking they're ready to check out. Her smile fades, and she asks if I'm checking. I look up at my light on instinct because I occasionally forget to flip it on before I start a shift. I notice it is indeed on, turn to her, and nod with a smile. She places a hand on the counter, leans in, and says in the most condescending voice, "Is that a yes? Are you speaking?" That kind of surprised me. I often respond to guests non-verbally if it's not necessary for me to speak, and no one has ever called me out on it or said anything negative about it. I just sort of stammered out an affirmative response. I may have asked her if she was okay, not sure why I did that. I'm pretty unnerved at this point, but very ready to move on with my life, so I try to make a conversation with them like I would any other guest. The "How are you guys today?" came out very strained and unnatural sounding, which made me even more nervous. There's a little habit I have. If I'm nervous or uncomfortable, I try to avoid eye contact. This time, the habit came out as a glance to the side, followed by me quickly looking back over at them. One of the old ladies, the one who hadn't spoken yet, instantly started flipping out, like, "How dare you roll your eyes at my sister?" That kind of thing. I was at a loss because 1, I didn't roll my eyes, and 2, while the situation was generally awkward, I didn't expect this kind of reaction from them. My eyes went wide and I recoiled, as is my usual surprised reaction. She called this to attention as well, though I'm not sure I remember the exact wording. Something about wide eyes. I think she was accusing me of a false reaction? I'm not sure. Anyway, she said something along the lines of, "If you're gonna be like that, we'll go somewhere else." Like, that was supposed to be the thing that fazed me? By this point, I was pretty ticked. I'd been having a good day up until that point, and they just dropped in, out of the blue, falsely accused me of something I'd likely get in trouble for, and then left just as quickly. As they were turning to go, I said, "If you're gonna be like that, I'm perfectly fine with it," and went back to life as usual. They went to self-checkout, where they harassed the poor woman over there about how unprofessional I was. That really freaked me out, just the whole thing. My coworkers seemed pretty freaked out too, and one of them delivered an actual eye roll when I told her about it, which made my day. Yeah, it's really weird what people think they see, and how they escalate situations and act like they didn't know that that was gonna make it worse. Like, when you start nitpicking every little thing someone does, the likelihood is that they will now continue to do more things that are not preferable because they're freaking out and you're just escalating the situation. I don't understand people like that. Guy comes through my line twice and lies to his girlfriend. Okay, so I have been dying to post this somewhere, and I know it's probably not the most interesting of stories, but I felt really guilty because I felt like I was lying to this guy's girlfriend. Okay, so this guy comes through my line last night. It's pretty late, and there's only one other cashier, and he had a customer. This guy is buying 2 or 3 of those tiny little bottles of alcohol. Might have been vodka, I don't know. He seems pretty rushed, and I was pretty tired. He says something like, "I need to get this done. My girlfriend is in the bathroom." And I'm like, okay. And I flip my light that signals that I'm open so that it's flashing, alerting the manager up front that I need help. I'm 17, and at this store, you have to be 18 to ring up alcohol, so a manager has to come over and type in a bunch of override numbers. As soon as this guy sees my light flash, he kind of rolls his eyes and groans, and I'm kind of like, okay? So, upfront manager comes over and begins scanning his 2 shots, and the guy's like, my girlfriend is using your bathroom. And at this point, I'm like, this guy really does not want his girlfriend to know he's buying alcohol. So, I look back towards where our bathrooms are to see if anyone's coming. I was secretly hoping that she would catch him just because I'm kind of bad at keeping secrets. When he sees me do this, he goes, she doesn't like me drinking. And I just kind of nod. So manager rings him up and the guy sticks the shots into his pocket and walks away. So I was really hoping that when he and his girlfriend came through that maybe they would go to a different line, but of course they came through mine, and as soon as they did, the guy kind of gives me a shush look, like, don't tell her, and I'm kind of like, okay, I just can't say anything because I'm scared it will slip. And as I'm scanning their items, he realized he forgot something and walks away, leaving me alone with his girlfriend. I'm basically like telling myself over and over that I need to respect his privacy, but I also felt bad keeping it from her. I never said anything, but I still secretly hope that she found out because I feel so guilty. I mean, it just made me think like there's got to be a reason that she doesn't like him to drink, and maybe there's a way they could talk it out, but I'm looking way too deep into this, and it's really none of my business. I just needed to get it off my mind. As the wife of a recovering alcoholic, I guarantee she found out. My husband would lie and gaslight, but I always knew when he'd been drinking. His eyes changed, his voice changed, he always used certain phrases. His mannerisms changed after just one drink. He never had me fooled. He was never mean or abusive, but it controlled him. He couldn't stop if he started. He lost jobs, he was annoying as F when he drank, and the lying was the worst. He wouldn't admit it for anything, and it drove me psycho. I finally took the 2-month-old and left. We were gone for 2 weeks. He sobered up and hasn't touched a drop since. I would know. It's been 2 years. I'm proud of him. So I'm really happy to see this comment underneath this particular story because, yeah, it does make you feel bad because it kind of makes you feel like now you're somehow partaking in this guy hiding the fact that he's buying alcohol from his girlfriend. Like, he didn't have to be all weird about it. And like he knew he was being shady, and then he like purposefully went through your line again. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like it when people try to make you do stuff. Like, it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong. So I definitely understand that, but I'm thankful for this comment because it is reassuring that the girlfriend knows and you don't have to feel bad. Old man tells me I should wear a sign that says I'm stupid around my neck. So this happened a few years ago. I was a cashier at a local grocery store, and that day was handling the self-checkouts. The self-checkouts would break constantly and usually only take one type of payment or another. Cash or card, but almost never both at a single register. This one day was pretty busy, and an elderly man comes up on a riding cart. I tell him the one he's chosen is cards only, which was on the screen, and even provided a prompt you had to read and agree to before starting your checkout. He acknowledged me and the prompt and checked his groceries. As soon as he's finished, of course, he pulls out cash and gets pretty frustrated the machine won't take it. I remind him the machine was cards only, but I could pull his order over to my register and finish his transaction there. The only issue was that we would just have to wait a moment for a supervisor to approve it, as it required a supervisor to suspend transactions and move them to another register. He held his cash out to me and told me to just take the money and give him his change. He wanted me to open my register, an action that would also need a supervisor's approval, do the math from the total on his screen, and give him his change right then. I told him I couldn't do that as the supervisor had to manually open the register for me when not in a transaction, and this grown man straight up looks at me and says, "That's stupid. You should wear a sign around your neck that says you're stupid." Then he just left without his stuff. I was so dumbfounded at the time, I couldn't even fathom a response. His insult was just so out of left field. Yeah, I don't know what it is with older people. They don't seem to understand how things work. And so they think like, oh, you should just be smart enough to like count out my money for me. But yet don't understand that they're the ones who disregarded the warnings and are disregarding protocol and all that stuff. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why. Like, maybe he was embarrassed that he just didn't listen or something, and so he decided to blame it on you. I don't know. The woman with 2 wigs. Oh wow, I hadn't expected my post to be received that well. Thank you all so much for the upvotes and comments. It really makes me happy. As promised, I have another story, which actually took place last month, so it's still a tad fresh in my mind. So, me and my coworker, who is a good friend and fellow courtesy clerk, let's call her Ale, we're working a 6 a.m. shift. As per usual with 6 a.m. shifts, we were just generally chatting, putting go-back items into their respective carts, preparing to place them back on their shelves. As I was doing so, I hear the low mechanical murmur of one of our motorized shopping carts coming up behind me. I stepped to the side to let the rider through, but noticed that rider had stopped right next to me. I look over and notice. I had seen this woman a little earlier in my shift, but because she was at a distance before, I didn't give it much thought. But now that she was right beside me, I couldn't help but notice. This woman was wearing 2 wigs on her head. One blonde, one black. The blonde was on her scalp, while the black one was messily thrown on top of the blonde. That and her demeanor. Something felt off to me. She didn't seem to be under the influence or anything. Something just didn't feel right. Alright, that's new, but I still didn't want to make any assumptions. It's 6 a.m. after all. The woman looks at me and says, "Hey you, follow me." And she starts riding her scooter to the door. I'm a bit taken aback by this. What could this woman want from me that requires me to head outside? Sure, it was a little past 6 a.m., but it was still winter. It was still dark outside. I glance at my coworkers. Ale seems just as confused as I am, but Mrs. P, one of the cashiers, was shaking her head, advising strongly not to follow. I look back at the woman who is now halfway to the door. She stops the scooter and notices that I am not following. She motions me with her hand and a loud, "Come on!" I'm not condoning what I do. I look back on this now, and I still call myself dumb for it. I follow her partially. I had no intention of following her anywhere outside of the store, but I did follow her to the doorway. Once I reach there, I firmly plant my feet and refuse to move any further. I glance over to the security guard who is posted by the door. He's watching this interaction intently from the corner of his eyes, which made me feel a lot better. The woman is now in the doorway as well, but this time, when she looks back for me and sees where I am, she just accepts it, that I'm going no further than this. She then asks me to lean in just a bit closer because I have something to ask you that I don't want anyone else to hear. She really didn't want anyone else to hear her either. As anyone who would walk by, she would stop and glare them down with a hard side eye. Once she was sure that no one else could hear, she asked, "How do you want your hair done?" I was a bit confused. Currently, I have no styles in my hair. I just wash it and put it into a ponytail. I'm not really looking for anything extravagant at the moment. Maybe just a nice press to get my hair a bit easier to manage again. So I awkwardly tell her as such. She stares for a moment and then points to one of her wigs. "Do you want it like this?" I really don't. I reiterate that I just want my hair done and out of the way so I don't have to focus on it for a while. I don't think she likes this response as she sort of glared at me and in a more sharp and whispered tone said, "I'm trying to do something nice for you." I do a little nervous laughter. Bad habit I can't help when I'm not sure how to respond. "What's your name?" she asked. And I mean, I can't lie about it. It's right there on my name tag. Emapso? Emapso. Alright, I'll remember that. I won't forget. I'll remember that. I got something for you. I'll bring it to you next month. Be looking out for it. She starts to drive off, and as she's going out the door, she keeps mumbling loudly. Let somebody F with you. Just let somebody F with you. As though she were threatening somebody. I walk back to my coworker and tell them what happened, but it doesn't quite end there. A little while later, I was in an aisle putting things back on the shelves when I look over and happen to see the same lady riding by on her scooter past the aisle I was working in. I had thought she was finished, hence why she left earlier, but she passed my aisle at least a few times. This had been enough to put me on edge initially, and I had tried to stay out of her sight until I was sure she had left. As it turns out, she's a semi-regular customer, coming in on random occasional intervals. Some coworkers have seen her, others haven't. And there was an instance where I saw her a few weeks ago while I was pushing in carts. She wouldn't have noticed or seen me because I was wearing my scarf around my face and a hood to cover my head. This story comes to mind because this month is the month that she supposedly brings me something. I'm honestly not sure what it could be, but my guess is that it could be a wig. If she was serious about bringing me something, let me know what you guys think it could be because I'm curious. And of course, if she does bring me the thing, I will update you guys. I want to clarify now, I'm not sure if she was on drugs or had a mental illness. I don't want to make assumptions like that. All I know is that the whole encounter and situation was just strange. Thanks for reading. Okay, yeah, that's really strange. I never know what to do with people like this. I worked at a restaurant and there were some weird people. I don't know. I usually play along because usually I don't see them again. But people who come back, then it's like, I don't know what to do about you. Like, there was one family that came in to dine, and like about 50% of the time, I'm not kidding you, 50% of the time, they would walk out angry. Like, they would leave before their server could get to them, or they would leave all grumpy, and my job was to say like, oh, thank you for coming, have an excellent day, and they'd be like, no, it's not an excellent day, and like leave, and they're telling me they're never coming back, but literally 2 days later, guess who's back? Like, I don't know, man. You do you. I don't get it, but okay. Anyway, that is going to wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Really quickly, I would like to thank my patrons. So up on the screen, you should see my face palmers and my crazy K's. Thank you all so much for helping me and supporting me in that way. If you're interested in becoming a patron, checking out the links to the original stories that were mentioned in today's video, or in emailing me for possible inclusion in a future video, all of that information is in the description box, so be sure to check it out. And I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!